So this is a video specifically about the HVAC and specifically intended for Rick. So Rick, the original arrangement was that we had 5 floor vents on this main level. That one, just below the windows there in what was the living room. There's one over there under that plank for the kitchen. And then one over in what was the second bedroom, which we called the den, which is now going to become the walk-in closet. A fourth one is currently covered up with lumber over here in the bedroom. So the one that is going to be in the walk-in closet will actually be elevated a little bit so that it's in line with the platform there on the left. And we'll just come straight up. The one in the bedroom will remain. The one in the living room and the one in the kitchen each will remain. There used to be one in the bathroom upstairs that we intentionally blocked off just because it was too much air blowing on your cold rear. So the cold air return is pretty limiting in terms of airflow, but the idea is it was at floor level, and so immediately across from the floor vent on that side, it always struck me that the airflow was pretty inefficient because it would just go across the room and back down. So the idea here is to split it. It was only on the living room side down low. It's going to be up high, and on half of it on the living room side and half of it on the bedroom side. The ceiling is going to be, those are 2x6 rafters, and it will be spray foamed to fill that space, so 5.5 inches of spray foam. Then 7/16 OSB sheathing, and then wallboard on top of that. Sheetrock, as they used to call it. So then downstairs, where the guts of things are, obviously we have a heat pump. It's an all-electric house. So down here we've got main supply line runs pretty much the length of the house. There are lateral runs from this main supply line across in the drop ceiling to those vents in the bedroom, and to each of them in the bedroom and in the living room and the kitchen. There's the main supply line, 24 inches wide. There's a cold air return immediately below this large panel there. So in the laundry room, which is now our sink room for cleaning up, we have electrical supply and then the heat pump itself, or the air handler anyway. So cold air return from the lower level. Main supply there. Bryant air conditioner dating from 2001. Not sure if you can see product number and model number and all that good stuff off of that. It's a 2-ton unit as I understand it. There's about 6 inches of space here that's occupied with the air filter and some of the return work off of that duct, I guess. So reasonably constrained on space. There is a closet on the other side that has the furnace backed up to it. Oops, light isn't going to come on because the basement light isn't on. So anyway, if space were really limited and had to get creative, it's possible to turn that unit 90 degrees. I don't know that that gains anything because it looks like the available space is roughly square. One of my requirements is to zone upstairs separate from downstairs. And I had a couple of discussions so far with HVAC guys who are bidding. There's one of the lateral supplies. This one is to the kitchen. So zoning this, one guy was talking about putting dampers in this main supply line. It turns out there are 3 vents downstairs. One in the center and one like this on either end. It turns out that if we move this vent left far enough, this area is dead end right now because that was where the supply to the bathroom went. But once you get past that lateral going over to the kitchen, you could theoretically put a damper here, the vent over here, and maybe accomplish the zoning. Back here in the middle, eliminate or close off this vent. And then down here, the side vent that goes off to the living room actually occurs back over here. So you could put a damper in here and use that vent successfully enough and try to accomplish zoning that way. Plan B, different contractor, suggested that you run a separate supply line. And so one place that could be done is in this, on the back side of this wall, is if you could come off of this space and have a supply line run across the ceiling here and go to about this point right here. And it turns out there's an open joist, that the only thing between this and the wall on the lake side is currently a fluorescent light. So following that same line, we'd be going over this main supply line then, and we would be in this joist here, run down and have a ceiling vent on the outside wall. We can't go through that wall. It's a poured foundation, and we would, if we went through above the foundation, which is in line with where that joist is, we would in fact be coming out in the insulated space in the ceiling of the new addition of the lake room. So there's the ceiling of the lake room, and the window we were looking at, you can see that the joist lines up with the ceiling itself. And so if you came out with a vent and down into the ceiling, you would lose all insulation between that and the deck above. So that's the current lay of the land. The question I guess I would like some input from you on is, what do you think about the zoning issues? One contractor was talking at length about cubic feet per minute. Because this is such a large cold air return here, he says that's where most of the air is going to go. Well, if you've got a large cold air return and maybe 2 vents, under the one solution you'd have the supply line running off the back side of the laundry room. One of the vents would come down here and come out of this wall. The other one would be down here. You could, I suppose, have one on the wall down here, but it would be behind where this china cabinet is now, and the other one on the exterior wall. So, what's your opinion about zoning, whether the dampers in the supply line, if the vents are moved past the last branch, whether that would make any sense or whether you really need a separate supply line. And if you do a supply line, does it look like there's room there to run it off of that same access point and run it behind the wall? So that's the question as best I can formulate it at this point.